right, everyone. Welcome back to the Quivercast, and we are excited. I am excited. Parrish Byrne, how are you, Parrish?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Wow, we got to know each other a little bit with this technology.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right. So let's start way back in the beginning. Surfboards have always been in your life, and surfing's always been in your life.
Yep.
What's your earliest memory?
Gosh, I don't know. It was
It's
just
always
I
there.
was I was always there. I don't know a life without surfing and surfboards and all that stuff. Like my dad and his brothers started the business in 1977, and I wasn't born till 87. So the business is well established and everything way before I was born. So I was born straight into it. Pretty much grew
Okay.
up in a surfboard factory.
Okay. So tell us who your dad is, and we'll burn surfboards, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So, dad
My
is
dad is Phil Byrne, yes.
yes. Your family's deep in surfing. So are you second generation?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah, obviously my dad and his brothers started the business in 1977 and me and my brother took over in 2014. So
okay.
yeah, second generation board builder, second generation of the business.
Okay. So when, a little bit of background on your dad. When did him and his brother start surfing? How young were they?
Oh, my dad started surfing when he was 10 years old,
Okay.
dragging 10-foot balsas down the beach. He was only a little fella, so it would have been pretty hard. He went through that whole generation where surfers look like bums. Like he's told me stories of my grandfather saying like, "You're wasting your time with this surfing stuff. Like, get back to the soccer fields and practice your soccer, rah rah this." But and then he kind of dragged. I think my granddad was kind of a bit upset with my dad because he dragged all my brothers into the ocean, and they all became surfy bums.
Was your dad the leader?
My dad's the eldest, yes, so
Okay.
he would have been the leader.
Okay. And I guess that's why I was asking second generation. Your grandfather didn't surf or didn't mess in the water.
No, but my grandfather was always good with his hands. He did a lot
Mm-hmm.
of woodwork in the garage, building
Oh,
boats and all sorts of stuff, and had a really, really good eye for detail. So I kind of assume that's where my dad got his craftsmanship for, and hopefully I got
yeah.
it from there as well.
That totally makes sense. So your dad was 50% of what his dad wanted him to be a football player, a soccer player. He was early onto the water, but he did get his craftsmanship.
Yeah, I think it's in the blood, craftsmanship.
Okay, cool. Okay.
My bloody
Did
brother
you?
can't even swing a hammer.
Well, hold on. I'm kind of fascinated with your
Uh,
grandfather. What was your grandfather's name?
Laurie.
Look, did you know him?
Yeah. He
Uh,
only passed away probably about, I'd say 12 years ago now.
okay, so you've heard stories of Lori, right? It
Yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, uh, you know, kind of harassing your dad or whatever words you want to use, talking about,
Yeah, yeah, he told me one really good story. All the boys had been, surfing all day. And you know what it's like, you just
right.
shattered. They
Yeah.
were all at the dinner table, and one of my dad's brothers, Critter, he was the youngest of the crew, and Dad reckons his eyeballs were like popping out of his head. He was so tired. He's
Yeah.
fallen asleep at the dinner table, and he's just fell flat, face full of food. And my granddad just hit the roof, apparently.
Oh, um, so your grandfather, did he appreciate surfing later on in life? Like as you knew him?
I think he did. I think he was really proud of what my dad and his brothers had accomplished and achieved in owning, starting, running their own business. I think he really appreciated that. And then also a little bit in the craftsmanship. I remember shaping when I first started shaping. He come in the factory and he was kind of watching me, and he's like, "Oh, Parrish, you're pretty good with your hands. It's like I can appreciate that."
Okay.
So yeah, I think it was kind of a bit frowned upon at the start, but then he realized what they had grown and achieved.
Right.
So yeah, I think he come around.
And plus, in Australia, during those years,
Oh, the 70s,
surfing
60s,
changed.
70s. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it went from
Totally.
hippies smoking weed probably to a sport
Yeah,
in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
Well, look at it now. They're full-blown athletes.
They are, and we can get into that in a little while. Let's not get there
Yep,
yet.
yep,
Okay,
yep.
so Grandpa, what were your thoughts of Grandpa? Do you like him?
Yeah, I got on good with him. He liked his fishing, and like he was an amazing craftsman. He used to build like he was showing me one project he did. He built like a replica of like I think it's the Endeavour, what Captain Cook came to Australia on, a boat,
Oh, okay,
like
okay,
an old English boat.
yes.
And he was following the model and everything, and he found like things in the model, like certain knots they tied, and that weren't the correct knots that the actual Endeavour had.
Mm-hmm.
So he did it all the right way, and then he wrote the bloody company that did the model letters saying it was false and this and that. So perfectionist, and obviously, yeah, me and my father probably got our perfectionist stuff from him.
Okay, all right. That's a cool story. Um, did you ever go fishing with him and stuff like that, or like how much time did you
Yeah,
spend with him?
oh, quite a bit. Yeah, I didn't really like fishing, so I kind of went just to humor him, I guess. But
Okay.
I found it boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like fair bit of time.
Okay. All right. So then your dad's this full blown surfer, becomes a world renowned shaper, surfboard
Yep,
shaper.
yep,
So and some big names rode for him, Tom Carroll
yep,
and all
yep,
kinds of people. Were these
yep.
people? Were you meeting these people as a young Parrish, seeing some of the best
Oh,
surfers around your house
yeah,
and the work area?
yeah, for sure. Tom Carroll's actually my brother's godfather.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then I had Robbie Page living in my house for I think it was like 2 or 3 years when I was about 3 or 4 years old. While he was on
Okay.
tour, he'd come back and stay at our house. So his Uncle Robbie. So yeah, I
Okay.
was surrounded by all those guys. Yeah, like I've known them since before I was born. So
Okay.
yeah,
So when they were having a contest, would you guys come down and watch them, like a ASP contest? Would you watch Uncle
yeah,
Robbie Page surf?
yeah. I didn't really know what I was watching. I was just going to the
Right.
beach, and there was a bit of stuff going on. But yeah, I used to go to a lot of events with Dad when I was young, and yeah, I don't really know any different.
Yeah. Did everyone know your dad, kind of thing?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So how did that feel being a young kid? Was it just part of life, or did you understand that your dad's kind of a popular guy?
Not until I was a little bit older. Not until I fully got into surfing and I was obsessed and I learned about the history and that. And then I'd go away to an event and I'd be like, oh wow, there's Martin Potter or
Mm-hmm.
Luke Egan or a guy like that. I knew them before doing the research, and then once I got into it and I knew what they achieved and who they actually were, I kind of was a bit starstruck.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So you're a young surfer. Are you surfing because you love it, or is it because it's what you guys do in the family kind of thing? Which one was it? Or both?
Um, I guess I don't think anyone surfs because they have to. They've got to
Okay.
love it. If you don't love it, it's a bloody hard sport to get better at. You fall and you fail so much learning how to surf that if you don't love it, you're gonna give it away, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a bloody hard sport to get good at. So yeah, I definitely love it.
Okay. So you're hungry, kind of. The kids around you, the kids your age in your local area,
Yep.
were you competitive with them like straight at the start?
Yeah, I'm a pretty competitive person, so I don't know, whatever sport I did play rugby league and did a bunch of other sports when I was younger, and whatever I did, I didn't do it half-assed. I went in there and, wanted to win no matter what. So yeah,
Okay.
surfing was just a natural thing to compete in and stuff like that.
when you were playing rugby or whatever else you were doing, and the waves were good? What were you thinking?
Well, that's when I stopped playing rugby. So,
That's
so
kind of
I
my point.
I played a lot till I was about 12, and I'm only a little guy, like I'm only 5'4".
Okay.
So, 12-year-old boys, they start getting a bit bigger. I kind of
Yes.
got left behind. I was getting smashed. And at the same time, I was started surfing and I wasn't turning up to training and all sorts of stuff. So it was kind of just all happened at the same time. I just went,
Okay.
oh, I don't want to do this. And then I remember I used to play footy and then I'd go surfing and like I'd be so itchy from like the grass and stuff like that when I put my wetsuit on. I was like, oh, I hate this feeling. I'm not playing footy anymore.
Yes. Okay. But was like surfing, like, what did your dad think about it? Did he feel like you needed to go surf? Did he ever push you to surf, I guess is the question.
Nah, no. It's actually quite funny. He's told me stuff. I can't really remember, but we're always at the beach and stuff, like swimming,
Yes.
bodyboarding. I got a
Yeah.
brother and sister, so we're all just hanging around playing in the sand while Dad surfed. And yeah, I can't remember Dad ever like bringing me and pushing me in or anything. It was more
Mm-hmm.
like he told me he was in the surf one day when I was about like 7 or 8, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got a hill where we live, and I just come down the hill with one of his boards on my head because it's too big to carry,
Yeah.
and paddled out. And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm like," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm surfing." He goes, "Oh, okay, you want to surf now? Okay, you can
Okay.
surf." Yeah.
Awesome. You were never turned off because it was always in your life? Does that make sense? Like you, surfers and surfboards and everything. Sometimes kids push away from what their parents are or do.
Nah, I can't imagine a life without surfing and surfboards. I remember telling my nan when I was about 6 or 7 years old. She's like, "Oh, what are you going to do after school?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to try and be a pro surfer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to shape surfboards." I had my life, what I wanted to do, already mapped out when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Well, mission accomplished on that part, right?
yeah, I guess.
Okay. So then you quit the other sports, you become this hardcore surf grom. Who are the people you're hanging out with, and how good of surfers are they?
Oh, our age group in Oz was, I reckon, it was one of the hardest age groups ever in the history of surfing.
Yeah.
We had like it was myself, Matt Wilkinson, Owen Wright, Laurie Towner, um, some of the international guys like Geordie Smith, Julian Wilson was in there as well. Like that whole world tour from 2010 to 2020 was my guys I grew
Yes.
up competing against. So yeah, it was a bloody. I think a lot of that had to do with the Cooley kids, like Mick, Joel, and Dino's success, because we
Okay.
we were like 5 or 6 years younger than them,
Yes.
maybe actually a little bit more. So we watched them, and they were ripping, and they were setting the world on fire. So maybe that made the Australians a little bit more hungry to follow in their footsteps.
Okay.
So yeah, no, like it was a really hard age group to compete in, that's for sure.
Okay. So let's say 15-year-old Parrish. Where were you at competitively?
I was making Australian titles and stuff like that. Not
Wow.
really
Okay.
setting the world on fire. Like I just said, the competition was hard.
Yeah, stiff for
From
sure.
that her early age. So getting results and stuff, I was a lot smaller than the other guys too. So I knew when I grew, maybe I'd sort of start getting a bit bigger scores. I wasn't really an aerial based surfer either. I was a little, well, not skinny, little sort of chubby, not chubby, but I don't know,
Stocky.
like stocky. That's the word. Little
Yeah.
stocky kid
Okay.
trying to be a power surfer, but I was only about 35 kilos, so it wasn't really happening for me. So when I grew, I did improve, and my results improved with that as well.
All right. A 15-year-old Parrish. What would the perfect wave be? Like how big and what kind of break were you surfing?
At 15, my favorite wave would have been Uluwatu in Bali.
Oh wow. Okay.
I used to go there, over there a lot and spend like a lot of time there, especially with the local crew, like wherever I went in the world, my dad really ingrained in me not to hang with my own people, get out there and meet new people, get in their culture and stuff, and sort of be one of them, like to get that whole culture experience. So yeah, Ulus would have been my favorite wave. Another wave where I live, Sand and Point. It's a really nice right hand point break, and yeah, that probably shaped my surfing. I'm a goofy foot, so my backside surfing definitely, which I feel is probably one of my weapons.
Okay, that was going to be one of the questions. So when you went to like a beach break, was it just kind of like you'd rather be on a point break?
Oh, everyone would be rather surf
That's true.
waves,
I thought
right?
about that after I asked. But...
Beaches are good. You can get barreled and stuff, and you can go left or right or whatnot. But yeah, no, that classic point break, reef break is definitely what you want to be doing.
Okay. And you like you said, when you're surfing Uluwatu or anywhere like, in Bali,
Hmm.
we're mostly lefts, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
were you
I surfed
loving
enough. I surfed enough rights at home, so whenever I went somewhere, I had to go
you're looking
left.
for lefts?
Yeah, there is a little left reef out the front of my mum and dad's house, which I grew up on as well. Um, but yeah, no, it was nothing compared to the point break. Point break was the one when it was on.
Did you ever have dreams of being a regular foot, or did you ever try switch foot?
Uh, Everyone tries switchfoot. I'm not very good at it, but
No Simon
uh,
Law?
nah. It's funny. I was actually at the pool with Lauro last week, and he did a switchfoot on the left and got barreled.
Oh
It was
wow.
insane. Yeah, he's like, his last wave of the session, he's like, I'm gonna switchfoot this one. And
Okay.
everyone, like, I was actually in the pool with like him and Duma Harmon and a couple of guys. It was for a rip curl thing.
Okay.
And he's like, I'm going to switch foot one. And he got the last wave, so everyone watched him and he switched foot and got pitted. It was epic. And he goes, oh, I should have been doing this the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's great. Right on.
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
character.
So you're still having thoughts of being a pro surfer as you're getting older, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was gunning to basically try and become a pro surfer like my peers were, the Julians and Owens and Wilcos and stuff.
Yeah.
When we hit the pro juniors, like I said, I did get a little bit bigger. Not that that's, I'm still pretty small. But yeah, my results really improved when I hit the pro juniors and stuff, and felt like competing with them, took them on a few times, beat them here and there, but yeah, that like the way they surfed, man, they did everything good. They were just really good surfers. I, on the other hand, felt like I don't think I was as good as them, so I had to rely on heat strategy and management and stuff like that, and playing the actual game to beat those guys in heats.
Okay. How did that come across to your peers?
Maybe aggressive at times.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was good as them, so I really had to pump myself up before and win at all costs. Um,
Yeah.
while competing with them, just because like I just thought I wasn't as good. So
Okay. So also at that age bracket, were you always thinking heat strategy even when you were free surfing, or were there days where you went to Bali for a month or two that contests weren't in your head and you surfed maybe differently, or
oh
no?
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. Free surfing and competing's a whole different ball game.
I feel like a lot of these kids, okay, I won't say kids, but pros nowadays, I think, in my opinion, I don't know for this for a fact, that they're always thinking contest heats. They're always, even when they're free surfing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Um,
wrong.
I can see that when guys are getting ready for events. I've actually heard pro guys say that, like, oh, I wish the comp was on today. That was like an 8. They get a good wave,
Right,
and
that's what I
so
mean.
it's
Yes.
it's in the back of their mind. Did I do that? Yeah, when I was training and stuff, obviously. I don't know. I feel like I was like a middle class guy. Like I could get 2 7s, 7 5s every heat, but to get to the excellent range was kind of hard for me. I was relying on basic surfing, like power
Okay.
surfing and like when it came to airs and stuff, I was kind of struggled, especially against those guys. They're all bloody good at it.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite surfer? And I know you were ingrained in pro surfing with the people around you, but did you have a favorite surfer?
I really looked at Andy Irons.
Okay.
Surfing, he's an animal. It's like, you never knew what you were going to get with him surfing wise. And then competing, he really pumped himself up. He was aggressive and he, wore his heart on his sleeve and won at all costs. That's what I drew inspiration of. Like, it come out later, like he had a lot of self-doubt in himself and stuff, and he
Mm-hmm.
used that to pump himself up. So I took that on as like some inspiration, and I beat my chest and do the same thing.
Okay. During the heat, after heat, you would do this? Like when? Before heat?
Uh, Before the heat, guy says good luck, and you just look him up and down and don't say anything. That sort
I
of
love
stuff.
that. I love
Just
that.
like a bit of Iceman stuff, but like, aggressive in the heat. I probably got more interferences than anyone else.
Okay. Yeah, that
Overamping,
makes sense.
trying too hard, trying to make up
Yes.
for lacking in talent maybe.
Did
um,
you? Oh, good.
but after the heats, kept it in the water.
That's what I was gonna say. Were you losing friends, or were you not making friends because they were a competitor? Your competitor?
Uh, at times, yeah, like I don't know. Some people would take it personally. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had two that stand out in my mind, and it's probably really funny because they're the biggest guys you can ever imagine. I had one in Portugal with William Cardoso.
Oh yeah, I know the guys. Yeah, the Brazilian.
Yeah, we were in a three-man quarter final, me, him, and Tonino Benson, and he got a good score at the start. Tonino got a good score at the start. Well, actually, William got a middle class score. Tonino got a good score, and he just sat on me underwater. He actually leg locked me. He
Oh
had my
shit.
ankle in his leg and just wouldn't let me move, like full jiu-jitsu freaking trick.
Oh
I was
shit.
throwing hands, doing all sorts of stuff. So that freaked me out a bit, and then like fought back a little bit, but yeah, no, he ended up beating me. Come in the uh, Come in the competitors area, and he was having a shower, and I like threw my board at him, pushed him, like like what was that all about, right? This
Yeah.
and Mason Ho, who I'm really good friends with, he was up in like the competitors area, and he watched the whole thing, and he comes bolting down the stairs, and I'm like just seeing red,
Yeah.
like going crazy. He's like, Parrish, take a deep breath. Look at that guy. Do you know what you're trying to do right now? I'm like 5'4" and 60 kilos. He's bloody 6 foot and 90 kilos. He would have
Yeah.
squashed me like a fly. He's like, dude, what are you trying to do? Settle
I.
down, Mighty Mouse.
Yeah. How did he take it? How did William take it?
Ah, the Brazilians. He had his back up and was ready to go.
Oh, was he?
Uh, well, the other one was funny. It was with Jay Davies, so he's just as big as William. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a little man's complex going on somewhere or something. But
Well, I mean, if he's holding you down in water, that makes sense why you'd be super angry. If you can't
I'm not
paddle
going to
around.
back. I'm not going to back away.
Yeah.
If he wants to go, I'll go, even though he
Oh,
can
that's
kill me.
funny. All right. Well, what event was that? That wasn't in Brazil, was it? Because that'd probably be a
No,
bad move.
it was in Portugal. But we were going to
Okay.
Brazil next. That was like Mason's like, dude, we're going to Brazil next. Don't muck around. Don't do that.
Yeah.
We
What?
apologized. Everything was fine later on. No dramas, but it was just heat of the moment.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, okay. Well, laying hands on you in the water is weird. I didn't know.
Guy leg locking me underwater. You couldn't see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
That is insane. All right. So, what other fun things happened as a pro surfer? We kind of skipped your whole amateur career. Anything exciting amateurs before you get in the pro surfing?
Just being on that like Australian Junior Series, it was so good when I was young. We used to have like 10 events a year, traveling with all your mates, or sponsors, competing. It was our QS before we went on the QS. It really
Yes.
taught us a lot about, competing back to back to back. You get a bad result, you got to pick yourself up because you're back in the water in a new event 3 days later, which is what the QS was all about too. So I feel like that amateur sort of pathway was really good, and maybe that's what shown for those guys to be as good as they were. If that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Mm.
Did you have rivals in the Australian leg?
Not so much rivals. There was just so many guys at a good level. Like that last couple of years I was in the Pro Juniors, the top 20 was so hard to crack. I think my last year on the series overall, I ended up I think 6th or 7th. And
That's
then
impressive. Very
yeah,
impressive.
and then there's a little side Billabong Junior Series, which rather than the 10 events, I think it was only 5, and I ended up 3rd on that one.
Okay.
So yeah, I was right there, and
Yeah.
there was kind of a thing too back then. Our sponsors kind of would say to us, wasn't just my sponsor in Quicksilver, it was all the other brands. It was kind of this thing that, you've got to make the top 10 on the junior series your last year
Hmm.
before we give you contract to go to the QS. So
Okay.
like money and everything to be able to pursue the QS tour. So yeah, cracking that top 10 was there's a lot of people's, careers on the line to do that, whether they ventured past Pro Juniors or not. So yeah, stiff competition for sure.
There was a huge surf industry in these years. It's kind of gone now, but
Yeah, yeah. Everyone says it's the glory days, right? Like that
okay. Yeah.
2005 to 2012 kind of thing.
Was You said there was pressure to make the top 10. Did they care how you competed? Did they care how you said you were the aggressor, maybe the
Not
Iceman?
really.
No,
Not
they just
really.
wanted
No.
they just wanted
Oh,
results only.
well, obviously, you don't want to be too big a dickhead, right?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong, you win at all costs, but you keep it in the water, right? Like,
Okay.
it wasn't dirty, it was strategic.
Okay. But at this point, you're probably recognized by maybe other surfers that aren't competing. The regular guy on the beach, you might be recognizable. You got to be approachable. It's kind of a question. Did you need to be approachable to the
Oh,
civilian on the street?
yeah, for sure. Which, like, even being a human being, you want to be like that, surfing aside, you want to be a good person and be approachable.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think there were some pros back in the day that maybe weren't approachable. They had the perception of not being approachable.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I don't know. That's my perspective on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we didn't talk about the equipment. So your dad was, I'm assuming, shaping your boards through your whole career.
Yeah. 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 Obviously, my dad's a really good shaper and he knew what he
Yes, a
was
very, very good
doing.
shaper.
And I watched every board of mine get shaped. I was in there in the shaping room with him. I used to watch him shape everyone's boards, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like my earliest memories are hanging out in the factory. Tom Carroll would be in the room with him. He'd be making boards for Tom, I think my dad's my hero. What I really liked about him was um, like his the relationships he had with his team riders. They weren't just guys he was building boards for.
Right.
He treated them like they were his kids, and I try and do the same thing.
Did you throw your 2 cents in? Especially as you're getting a little bit bigger. I know you said you're the shorter guy, but
What do you think I started shaping? I started
okay.
shaping my own boards because my shaper wouldn't listen to what I wanted. So I was like,
Okay.
stuff you. I'm gonna do what I want.
Okay. And how much besides him shaping your boards, did he work with you with style or with turn or like any of your surfing, your outside on the street surfing?
A little bit, yeah, yeah. Obviously, he'd come to a lot of events. He'd watch me surf all the time. Um, it's kind of funny. I was a funny kid. I was really hard on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I had sessions there where, try and improve, couldn't quite get stuff right. I'd come in blowing up. And I just remember this one time I was like, can you just like say something? Can you just like yell at me and tell me I'm a kook and I'm doing shit wrong? And he looks me
Uh-huh.
up and down and he goes, I don't need to, mate. You're your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
You're your own worst critic. You critic yourself harder than anyone. How can I compete with that?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that's with a lot of people, you know, it's someone trying to achieve something. They're hypercritical on what they're doing because they want to get better.
Right. But but at such a young age, I don't think a lot of the your schoolmates probably didn't have the passion for whatever they were doing like you did. If that makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
it was a bit different though. Like, you know, I look at kids these days and you know they're on the track, they're trying to be a pro surfer or trying to succeed in surfing. They might ability might not quite be there, but it's
Hmm.
great for the kid to have a goal and
Yeah.
have focus on something. Um, Especially surfing because it's fun. It's not like swimming or another sport. You're not looking at a black line for 4 hours every day. You're out
Right.
there in the ocean, in nature, with your friends. There is a time, obviously, you got to switch on and try and get better and stuff. But for the most of it, you're surfing. Surfing's fun.
Yes. Yes. Going back to your dad a little bit too. Did he have a competitive background?
He did, yeah. He competed back in the day, not so much on the tour. Like he used to do the trials. They had trials
Yes.
before an event and then to get in the main event. I think he made the main event at like Bells a few times and
Wow.
Sunset.
Oh, that's cool. I did
Yeah,
not know
no,
that.
yeah, yeah. So my dad, his brother Dave, and his other brother Critter, they all did the tour together, and it was
The
that same.
ISP or
Yeah,
IPS?
well, yeah. I think it was even before then, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Yeah, possibly.
So yeah, no, they used to do all the tour together. It was like a free for all to make the main event.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle Critter was actually on the was it
IPS or
IPS?
ASP. Okay.
Yeah, well, same sort of thing for
Yeah.
4 or 5 years.
Oh, really? I did not
Um,
know that. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
look that
He
up.
he got he got second in the Coke to Buzzy Kerbox one year at Narrabeen.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. He actually had an injury which sort of stopped his career. He broke his back
Oh
and
shit.
well, a few vertebrates in his back, and they couldn't.
Oh,
Back
sucks.
then, it was like body cast for 12 months, and
Probably. Yeah.
I think in his time off, that's when like your Tom Currans and your Rockies and all that
Mm-hmm.
come through, and I think it lifted from here to here. So coming back after an injury like that was hard enough, let alone how much the sport had progressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Trippy. I did not know that. So, besides being a great shaper, you guys have great surfers in the family.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny.
I,
Maybe it's probably our Irish blood. Anything we sort of set our minds on, we try to achieve.
yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that correlates.
Okay. And then back to your grandpa. Did he ever show up at your dad's events or anything? You think?
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
I know he
All
came, he
right.
came and watched me at a few of mine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just supporting his grandson. Probably didn't really know what was going on, but yeah. So like he fully come around.
Yeah. 100%. Just a generational thing, kind of.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to your dad. So you're getting board shape. I am. You're talking your boards out, but your dad's not always listening. I think you kind of said that.
Yeah, I think it got a bit like that. Yeah, like it's a funny question, like why I started shaping.
Okay.
Yeah, I think is that what you're asking? Like basically like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
why I started shaping? Yeah, it was a little bit of that. Also, I felt like I was to a point, my knowledge of surfboards was quite good from
Yeah.
spending all that time in the bay. I was always good with my hands, woodwork and stuff. I'd always play around making boards like with dad. Um, so it was kind of a natural progression thing. One of the last years I was doing competing, I rode my own boards a fair bit,
Okay.
and
That's cool.
at that time, I had a really good friendship, well, I still do, with Owen Wright. We've obviously both rode Byrne boards.
Yeah.
and we were traveling a lot together, and I felt like I was kind of the middleman between my dad, and his other shape of frog,
Okay.
just because I could, he'd tell me what he thought about his boards. I could sort of translate it back from what he was saying and put it in a shaper's language for my dad and
Okay.
frog.
That
Yeah, I
makes
was like
sense.
a middleman there. And yeah, the boards got really good because of that. And then he was sort of saying, like, I started shaping. He was like, well, why don't you do me some boards? You're the one relaying everything. Why don't you do me what you think?
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and they worked for him. So
Okay.
yeah.
They get him on tour?
Well,
It helped?
he was already on tour. Like the year he won New York, I stopped competing and I was traveling with him quite a bit as like sort of a caddy. I had no title, but I was caddy, PA, sounding board,
Okay.
coach at times, just, someone to travel with that you could do
You guys are
stuff with.
buddies. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went to a lot of events with him and, worked on boards while we were there and fixed his things and, yeah, done a bunch of stuff like that. I'm really grateful for it because it got me in the locker room to see what was going on underneath, so to speak, underneath the hood of everyone else. So I could feel Kelly's boards, Mick's boards, Taj's
Mm.
boards, bring them back and kind of, put that into our own stuff.
Yes.
Mm.
Real quick though, you did the QS for quite a few years, and you won events or an event.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I did the QS probably last 2 years in the junior series. You kind of do the QS at the same time to try and get a seed. So when you finish the junior series, you bang you straight on a seed, so you can surf in the 6 stars and then the prime events, which were the Challenger series now.
Yes.
So I did the QS from 2005 to about 2012.
Mm-hmm. Quite a bit. So
Um,
let's like
yeah,
7
like
years.
6 or 7 years. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The last few years I only did the Australian events, but yeah, those good times.
Yeah. Well, I guess my point was you kind of knew what was under the hood because you were surfing still against some of the best surfers in the world and up and coming and guys that are falling off tour that wanted to get back on tour. So you were still around and competing against the best guys.
Yeah, well, maybe I could feel what they were feeling. Being a good surfer, I think is really important in being a good shaper.
Okay. I would
Um,
agree with you.
Not so much a designer. Like I'm, you can make good, beautiful boards, but just that extra 2%, that little magic. Sometimes maybe you need to know what those guys are riding. Like me and Owen used to do it all the time with new models. I used to make a model, I'd ride it a couple of times, make a few tweaks, and then I'd give him one. And I was like, "Oh, can you feel this?" And he'd go, "Yeah, yeah, can you feel that?" And we were like sort of bounce to get that board better.
Okay. And talking about models real quick, and I've had many discussions with different shapers and designers or both.
Yep.
Um, Back in your dad's day, going back to your dad again, there were no models. Your dad would talk to the local surfer, or he would talk to Tom Carroll or whoever. I'm sure there's a wider range of surfers, and they would tell him kind of what they wanted, and then they would let him loose.
Yeah,
Then,
totally.
then the models came in. I guess my question: having names on surfboards with a basic design, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's probably good for the general consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can read up and basically get what he wants. But for those guys that are really good surfers,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they need to have a relationship with their shapers. Like I've got guys I do boards for that are amazing surfers, and we pigeonhole them to a model, but then we may tweak that model just
Mm-hmm.
for them. So guy's a bit heavier on his back foot, we put a bit more tail rocker in there,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Just little tweaks in here and there off the base model. But I think it's different now with, computer shaping machines, everything like that. you can get the consistency a lot more now than you could back in those days when Dad was hand shaping boards for Tom and all those guys on tour.
Okay. Do guys nowadays and come to you or to one of the workers in the shop that's ordering a board, doesn't give you a model, just basically says, I want to surf 4 foot, whatever, beach break.
Yep.
And you kind of don't have the name for it, just shape them a board, get a board shaped.
Doesn't, I don't, yeah, no, it doesn't.
Doesn't work like that anymore.
I'll obviously show them the range.
Yes.
If they're high performance, I'll show them the range we do in high performance.
Yes.
Basically, you've got a high performance model sort of that goes in every wave. Barreling waves, average beach breaks, point breaks, stuff like that. Like trying to get the best out of the board for the conditions you're surfing.
Okay.
I'll pigeonhole them to a model, and then if I know the guy and I watch him surf, I can talk about, maybe we narrow a tail here, maybe we put a bit more thickness forward or whatnot. I'll tweak it to how he wants. But the base models are pretty damn good. I get that. For instance, I write all the base models, so I feel exactly what the base is, and I can tweak it to the guy off the base, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Now you had a relation, you and your father, and just in the company together, Byrne Surfboards. You've probably had one surfer that has been with you guys for generations. So you've seen him age.
Mm-hmm.
Do you if they're trying to stay back to where maybe they're not, you start losing your surfing. Well, I'm saying you lose your surfing as you get older. For most of us.
Yeah.
We're not as good as we were when we were 30. We're not as good as we were when we were 18. Do you ever gently persuade them to a different model? I guess is my question. Like, maybe we should try this, you'll have more fun, kind of thing.
Not so much a different model. I'll try and squeeze a bit more volume if I can.
Okay, volume.
The magic pencil tells all, right? Like, yeah, buddy, you're only riding 30 liters when it's when it's really 32. I'm pretty straight up with guys, and you've got to talk them around that. That it is a difficult one. I think the customer, if they've been riding your boards that long, they've got trust in you.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah.
Okay. And high performance boards, that's what your guys' specialty is, right? What is Byrne's specialty? Okay.
I think high performance shortboards for sure. If you look at our history, generally we've bar the last 10 years, we've always had a guy on tour. And myself and my dad, we really enjoy the high performance aspect and competing of events. So I feel like that kind of correlates to how your thought process is when you're making boards.
Yes. We
have started branching off to mid-lengths and fishers, and basically we've got everything in the range.
Yes.
But I feel like if someone was to think of a Byrne surfboard, they think of a Tom Carroll or Todd Prestige, Phil McDonald, someone that competed. So therefore, I would feel it'd be a high performance base.
I mean, for numerous years, every Tom Carroll picture in the surf magazine, regardless of what surf magazine was, he was on a Byrne.
Yeah, for sure.
It's engraved in a certain generation head, really.
Yeah. Byrne up in the nose, and then the Tommy Carroll sash.
There you go. All right. When you guys have broadened your range of surfboards, why did you guys do that? Or why do you feel like you guys needed to?
I feel like, keeping up with what's going on in our industry, you've got to be able to cater for everyone.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. Also, too, it's fun, like I've got every one of the models that we do in my quiver, and I ride them all the time, depending on the conditions. It kind of broadens your horizon a bit. You're not so tunnel vision. You see what else is out there, and there's a lot more aspects to surfing than high performance surfing too.
Yes.
Um, that's probably what it's taught me after, having that high performance competing thing my whole life to be shaping. It brings it a lot more fun. Surfing's fun.
Right.
And so, we've got our boards that, are amazing high performance boards that guys can compete on, but also we've got the board there for, the average surfer to get out there and have a good time on.
Right. And even the really good surfer, it's 2 foot a lot of days. And they need to
Yeah.
switch up their boards, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
You know?
it's funny. I start making all these new models, like these little hybrid models. And I get stuck on them, and it's like the only board I
They're so
ride.
fun.
And then I'm like, oh no, like it gets to 6 foot, and I'm like, oh, I gotta ride a normal board now. Shit, am I gonna be able to? So yeah, it gets you in the water when the waves are subpar. That's what I
100%.
like about it.
Yeah. And I think back in the 80s, the average surfer had 1 or 2 surfboards. Now, as we get older, we all want a big quiver. We all want to have 10 boards to choose from.
Yeah, for sure. Like the basic dimension back in the day was what, 6'2", 8 1/4, 2 1/4.
Yeah.
Bloody banana sort of race thin. But hey, those boards worked too. So I think they've just gone a bit more user friendly.
Okay. Even heavy rocker?
Yeah, I surfed Sandon Point 2 days ago, and there was a young kid that really surfs good. Oh, he's 20,
Yeah.
and he was riding a board that was from the 90s. Like
Mm-hmm.
6'3", 18 inches wide,
Yes.
2 1/4. This just full. The nose rocker was nearly hitting him in the face when he freaking paddled. So, and he was ripping on the thing. And I was talking to him, I was like, oh, Ronan, get me a look at that. And it was just like that full 90s board.
Yeah.
But it worked. And he was like, man, I can't believe how loose this is. I can't believe how it holds, like, and they worked. They served their
Okay.
purpose.
So you know this kid.
Yep.
You see him on a board more or less like today's models. Does his surfing look different to you?
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it better because it was a bit more old school. He was holding long lines and
Yeah.
cleaner lines and all that stuff. Yeah, he wasn't as twitchy, and he like wasn't laying it down and sort of quivering with too much speed. It just hung in there and held. And maybe we've got to go back there. Everyone's
Well,
gone on this
that was my next question. Is
volume
like
thing.
things always come backwards. 20 years later or something. Like longboarding today, it's giant, where it wasn't even existing in the 80s. Will something like that come back?
I think it could. I think we can it'll come back, but I think the whole volume thing's really probably been the main difference in board design in the last 15 years. Like guys are trying to get more volume in. Obviously, they want to make it easy to paddle. They don't want to work hard. Where a board like
That's
a
true.
90s board, you kind of got to work hard. You can get it right, but yeah, it doesn't paddle as good. The wave fattens out. It's sort of pushing water. It's low volume. So maybe if we can get a sort of a blend of the two, we might end up with a magic board.
That would be cool. And then I would kind of touch on a shaper versus a designer.
Ooh. Shaper versus designer. I feel like you've got to be a shaper. It's funny. We're at this weird thing in our industry where the shaper is turning into a designer.
Mm-hmm.
I like sending files worldwide. You can't shape every board.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like it's like surfing and shaping. You've got to be able to shape to be a good designer. You need to know the fundamentals. You need to know why this does that, why that does there. It's funny when I'm explaining boards to young kids and stuff. there's a lot more going on than, this 5'8", pointy nose, squash tail thing. All the elements have got to come together. And I think if you haven't shaped, if you're just a designer, you haven't shaped, maybe you don't see that. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
That is a tough
Wait.
question.
Yeah. Well, you're in a situation completely different because you've been around them both your whole life. So maybe it's hard for you to answer. And you've said it before, and I totally agree with you. How important is it that your shaper or designer or whoever's making your board knows how to surf?
I personally, I feel it's really important, but that's not to say that, I get a lot of my own feedback from myself. Obviously, it's great with team riders because they can kind of agree with what you're thinking.
And maybe respect you a little bit more too, actually.
Get you on the right track.
Yeah.
Where there's great shapers that aren't amazing surfers, but maybe their relationship with their surfers and their team riders is really good, and they can kind of pick the pieces and stuff like that to make better boards. It's all feedback, whether it's personal feedback you're giving yourself or feedback from a rider or something. It depends how you take that on board and get it into the surfboard design.
Yeah.
So for me personally, though, I feel you've got to be a reasonably good surfer to be a good board shaper or designer.
Okay. When you're working with accomplished surfers or surfers that are of high quality, they probably look at you, this is my opinion, they probably look at you with a little more respect because you know how to surf. You're as good as them, or you had your day kind of thing.
Oh, I definitely think so. Like a few years ago, I was shaping boards for Wiggly Dantas, and same thing as he's a good guy. So I was actually doing the same thing I was doing for Owen with Wiggly. I was caddy, PA, sounding board, doing that. So we would go to events, and Bells one year was cranking. Like, I can't remember what year it was, but the waves were really good. It was like 6-foot bells. And we were out there, and we'd surf before the events and after, like before the day started and after the day started, comparing boards. And I'd go out there on his boards with him.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd both surf, trade off boards. Like, obviously his boards are a bit bigger than mine, but I can still feel them. And it was funny. Like, he was really, what board did you think was best? What did you feel like? And kind of, I feel like he respected me because I could surf at a level on the equipment he was riding. So I think like my sort of what I felt what board would work. And then every time it was like, you'd ride the 6.3 or 6.1 or whatever, and we'd swap. We both would agree that that board felt better.
Yes. Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
So that's something a lot of shapers probably don't have the opportunity to do.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah.
And then in America, the Byrne Surfboard is alive and well. So how does that work out for you guys in Australia? If we were American, we want to get a Byrne.
We've got MB Michael Barron over there. He's been making our boards in Oceanside now for be at least 30 years, maybe a little bit more. Probably early 90s, I think he started our label.
Yeah.
And he's he's an amazing shaper. Was an amazing, still surfs pretty damn good, I think.
Yeah, no, he's still a good surfer.
Yeah. And he's he's really important to our business, and MB's the man.
So do you guys send files to him too? Is that how that works, or how does that work?
A little bit, because he was already a really good shaper.
Yeah.
Before he started doing our label, he kind of develops his own models.
Okay.
So our boards are available worldwide. We kind of he has his own sort of models. We in Australia make our own. Obviously, we can send files and do each other's models, no worries. But
Yes.
yeah, no, he's that deep in the business, and he's
Yes.
that welcomed in the business, and appreciated, and probably respected would be more thing. That
Yes.
yeah,
Very respected.
he creates his own files and creates his own models, and we've got no problem doing that because he's such an amazing shaper.
All right. The shaping world, is it changing with materials? And I mean, we've already talked about designer versus shaper and doing a computer shape. How are the materials? Are you guys pretty much sticking with the what your dad was doing in the 70s? Or has it changed so much?
Material wise, not really. Like obviously you PU blanks, they've gotten a lot better, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
lighter, stronger, wider. Um, Cloth's very similar. Resins are similar in that aspect, doing a polyurethane board.
Yes.
But I feel like the epoxy thing since my dad's day has really come into its own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's people just doing epoxy boards and stuff like that. I feel like that's probably been more of the technology change in the past 20 years.
Okay. Good or bad?
Um, it's good. It definitely has its place. Um, I'm not sure if the traditional like polyurethane boards will ever change, with the single stringer. You just look at the guys on tour, and like 90% of those guys are still using the same PUs with the same constructions that we've been doing for 40 years. Um, I think the epoxy thing that there's a place for, especially with the wave pools. Um, Fresh water, you don't have the same buoyancy as salt water, and epoxies have a higher sort of buoyancy.
Yeah.
Therefore, they definitely go better in a freshwater environment. So I think,
Okay.
and with wave pool springing up and stuff, I feel like that's another avenue. The epoxies will get better, and for the epoxies. So
Okay. So you have a surfer, Joe, down the street, whoever, and he's ordering a burn board. Do you
mhm.
feel like he can have the same board in both materials and it would be two different boards? Does that make sense? Or are they going to
uh,
ride very similar?
they're gonna ride similar, like your rockers and your driving points, and the way the board, where you can push it to do a turn and stuff, is going to be the same.
Yeah.
But the epoxy's going to be more lively in average conditions than the
Mm-hmm.
PU, but
Yeah.
then the PU will be better in better quality waves. It's going to
Okay.
have more drive and hold in there a lot better when the waves are better. So,
Yeah.
um, I think, yeah, there's a place for that for sure. I actually got a team rider was in yesterday, and I'm doing him two exactly the same boards. One
Okay.
epoxy, one PU.
All
And
right.
it's for competing. It's going to be, he loves this one board. That's going to be a good wave board. And the epoxy, we're just trying to give you an edge when the waves aren't as good.
Okay.
So,
And then wave pool, since you brought them up,
mhm.
if someone comes to you, are they getting boards specially made just for wave pools? Or do they
uh,
want to be able to take it in the ocean also? Kind of thing.
Not so much just for wave pools, but I'm kind of excited to go down that route. We've just had a wave pool open up like an hour from my house.
Nice.
So I've been going there. I've been taking my kids there a lot,
Yeah.
and real like that was the $1 million question. What's better in the wave pool, epoxy or
Mm-hmm.
PU? I can confidently say the epoxy is 20% better in the pool.
Nice. Okay. Good to know.
Um, so yeah, no, I've ticked that box. And then design wise, I feel like you could design a board around a pool because, well, the wave pools we have, the wave garden, you're in the pocket the whole time. You're not actually driving down the line,
Yeah.
or you're just surfing the pocket. And
Yeah.
then also, like, so you don't really need the volume. And
Hmm.
then paddling wise, you're not doing too much paddling. So
Okay.
that's another. I feel like you can go down in volume for the pool. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Nice. Okay.
Just the sheer. the board being knifey and fitting in the curl of the wave, I feel like it'll hold in there better.
Yeah.
Where the volume thing is more of a paddling and stability thing, where if you're in the curl of the wave and it's all there, you're not working it and trying to generate drive or speed, yeah, you don't need the volume. So that's
And
where
yeah,
I'm going with it.
yeah, that totally makes sense. And having your kids being groms, being young boys, I guess still, right? They're boys still. How
Yeah,
old are they?
well, my eldest Axel's 10 and my youngest Yaden is 8.
Okay, so they're going through growing spurts. Has that helped you
No,
shape grom boards?
not really. They're just little fellas. They're
Yeah,
like their
that's what I
dad.
mean. But they're going to grow over the next few years, and you've watched them grow from 0 to 10.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know.
So they're always growing.
I've always shaped really good grom boards. I felt I've
Oh,
always
okay.
had a good batch of like younger local kids that I've done boards for, like anywhere from 4'6" to 5'4".
Yeah,
Um, maybe because my boards are pretty small,
yeah.
I've got good feel when the
That
board's
makes
little
sense.
as well. Yeah, so yeah.
It's funny.
um, yeah, no, yeah, or like we've always been doing grom boards for little kids, so I haven't really learnt much from my own kids from that perspective. I've already had that knowledge, done the trial and error with the other kids, so
Yeah.
yeah.
How important is it for a grom to maybe switch out the board every 6 months, especially if they go through a big growth spurt? Because the board could be magic. A year later, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my dad are actually talking about my youngest Aiden with this the other day. He's only a little
Okay.
guy. His
Yeah.
board's a 4'8", and I think he got it 3 to 4 months ago. Not that he's gotten bigger, but his surfing's got better. And
That too. Yeah.
me and Dad nudge each other and goes, "Oh, his board's growing." That
Yeah.
means he's trying to turn that, and his board's actually look like he might have got a little bit bigger, but his board's looking longer
Mm,
because he doesn't need the extra stability, and
yes.
he's dialing it in, so might need to shrink a little bit.
With that being said, I never thought about this. Having a family in the shaping business really helps a grom because they have quite a bit of advantage over the average
No,
kid.
definitely, definitely. My kids are into it too. They bloody make their own boards, like
Really?
not big ones.
Yeah.
They make little play boards, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
okay. Okay.
They got
Okay.
their own
Gotcha.
little template, like they get the cardboard, they template out like a little board, cut it
Okay.
out, then they get paper and they actually glue the paper on. That's like laminating and glassing the board, and then they do their
Yeah.
colors and stuff. It's pretty cool. Um, so they've already got in their head how to make a board, I guess. Like,
Nice.
yeah, they're
Interesting.
going through the process in their own little arty way, and
Yeah.
they're into it. So it's good. It actually gives me drive too. It makes me appreciate what I'm doing, because as I did at that age, I held my dad and what he did so highly, and yeah, it definitely gives me a little bit of extra go for sure.
So I think I didn't look it up this time, but there was a period when you had to go into a tent during an event and shape with your dad. How'd that go?
Yeah, that was cool. That was the Vissla comp in Sydney. I think it was
Yes.
a Challenger Series comp,
A few years ago,
and
yeah.
we actually did it. I think we did it 2 or 3 times. But
Okay.
the last time they did it, yeah, I invited my dad to come in with me, and we shaped the Tom Carroll replica, which was a lot of fun. We kind of kept it pretty civil. We didn't have any arguments about design or technique or anything like that. So no, it was good. It's pretty nice to do, and we've actually got that board finished and it's hanging up in our shop, which
Okay, cool.
yeah, it's pretty
So
cool.
did
It's
you
shaped
and
by
your
both
dad,
of us.
do you guys definitely have different opinions on different parts of boards?
Oh, it's so funny. We're totally opposite with our theories and stuff like that. It's so strange. I don't know, like when I was like, it's the same as surfing. I'd come and oh, you need to teach me how to shape, and he's like, you can teach someone how to shape, but you can't teach someone's thoughts.
Mm,
my thought pattern. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. He's got things I go, fuck. Well, what are you doing that for? That's kind of weird. And he's got the same with me. It's just sort of, I don't know. We're individuals, you know. I've always, even growing up with a name, being in the industry, a legacy. I've always tried to stand on my own 2 feet and be my own man. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of, I didn't copy what he was doing, and our boards are not so much similar because of that.
Yeah. What do you think your kids are going to be like as they're kind of getting in the teenage years? They're heading that way.
As far as surfing goes,
Everything, just how you and your dad are you gonna have the same relationship like you and your dad have? Do you think, or is it gonna be different? You know your kids now, so
um, yeah, I'm probably not as calm and as as you know, yeah, me and my dad have different personalities. But yeah, he's always been very calm and you know doesn't talk unless he needs to, and he gives
okay,
you hard up advice. That's probably what I would take from him and parent my kids
okay, all right.
with. Yeah.
Do your kids ever tell you what they want when they're getting a new board, or is it usually a surprise, or do they feel like the
Uh,
tail is, or
no, I don't like maybe their first boards were a surprise for Christmas or whatnot, but now like their last 2 boards, I've got them on the computer with me.
okay,
I design them. I'm telling, like, I actually had an argument with my oldest. He wanted to go a lot smaller, and I didn't feel he was ready for it. So I was like,
uh-huh,
no, 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 you're staying on a 5.1. He wanted to go to 5.0. I don't know. Thinks he's cool with
okay,
his mates, but
yeah. Well, that's the other thing too.
yeah. And I was like I designing, and I was explaining why we do this, why we do that. They watch the board get cut on the machine. I actually get them to press the green button to start the machine.
Okay,
That I
yeah,
try and get them to be hands-on with their board, and I have them through every process. Um, so we cut it. I get in there in the shaping room, shape it with them, and yeah, just trying to teach them a little bit about what it takes to make a board, so maybe that they appreciate the board when they get it. Like it's a
okay,
lot of hard work. It doesn't just, it's not the blink of an eye and bang the surfboard.
right. And perspectives change through life, but today, would you tell your kids to get in the family business, or would you tell them, "No, let's try something different. This is a hard
Um,
business," or like, what's your perspective today?
I I wouldn't care either way. I just want my kids to be happy, obviously, like any parent
Okay,
would.
yeah, for
It'd be
sure.
nice to carry on a legacy, but the surfboard industry is a very, very hard industry. I work really hard and it's very underappreciated and stuff like that. But hey, you're doing it for the craft and you're doing it to make guys surf better on your boards, and that's the kickback. That's how you can hold your head high and be happy with what you're doing, watching people progress and enjoying and having fun surfing on what you've created for them.
Is there another shaper that you totally respect besides
Oh,
your
I
dad, of
shapes.
course?
I respect so many shapers. I
Yeah.
respect any shaper basically. I kind of I've been watching what Nev Hyman's been doing with his stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that. It's pretty cool. He had a bit of time off shaping and he's got back into it and he's like full of energy when he's doing it and stuff. And it's just
Uh huh.
really, for a guy that's been shaping 50 years, having that energy
Mm-hmm.
is pretty
Okay.
cool. And then obviously looking at everyone's boards, I know Paizel really well. I've got a lot of respect for him. I actually do ask him a lot of questions, stuff that really helps me whenever I need it. But just
Wow, that's
looking at
cool.
guys' boards, looking at, DH boards, a lot of respect for Darren there. Looking at, you know, Mayhem's boards, a lot of respect there for Matt. I don't know. I feel like I can see, even if it's not their hand shape, their design and that sort of thing, I have a lot of respect for that, for those guys. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a shaping surfboards is like an art form, I guess, or
Yeah,
say
I would say
call
so.
call it. There's no right and wrong. It's like music, right? Like the
There you
guitar
go. I
makes a
like that.
different tune to the drums and so
Yeah.
forth. And there's no right and wrong. It's just someone else's perspective on something. Whether
And
they
in
go
this,
better, that's a different story. But
there you go.
yeah.
And you know
But
what?
as
One board might not work for me, but it might work for the guy down, my buddy down the street.
100%, that's definitely one to look at.
Yeah. Um, is how is being in the surfboard business? I guess you just kind of talked about it a little bit, but
Mm.
is it with all these new surfers? It seems like all around us, a lot of people that have picked up surfing later on in life. Is the surf industry strong, board building wise?
Uh, it's it's strong, but also it's definitely an oversaturated market.
Okay.
There's a lot of there's a lot of boards out there, and there's a lot of options for people out there as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's funny. I was actually talking to my dad about it the other day. It's back in his day when they were in their prime. Really, it was only local shapers they were competing against.
Right.
These days, with the internet and stuff, you're competing against everyone on a worldwide scale. You're not just
Yes.
competing against the guys in the same area as you, or even the same country as you.
Right.
Um, so that's why I mean it's oversaturated. As far as the industry goes, it's getting really tough because I don't know, like the industry's getting old. There's not a whole lot of new blood out there making
Hmm.
surfboards. Like in my factory, the three guys I have working are 70, 65, and 58, like it's not,
Yeah.
and there's no one new coming through. So that's what I do worry about our industry.
Oh yeah, something to worry about
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
also obviously making surfboards is there's chemicals and then chemical restrictions that sort of I know the US has them and Australia's starting to get them. Um, yeah, my concern is that it's all going to end up offshore,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially inflation, wages going up, like all that sort of stuff. I don't know, I feel like this next 5 to 10 years, there might be a big shift there.
Hmm.
So
Okay. I hope
we'll see
not,
what
but
happens.
yeah, you might be right.
I think there's always going to be a place there for your local shaper.
Okay.
Um, whether what volume they'll be doing. Um, yeah, I don't know. We're at a funny stage, so
Yeah.
wait and see.
What about like soft tops and stuff like that? Is there room for that? I mean, do you think people should start off with in a soft top, or do you think it's because back in the day I didn't have a soft top. I don't think you probably did. Obviously, you did not.
No.
It seems like that's the
Um,
start now. Costco. I don't know if you guys have Costco, but where they're selling
uh,
Jerry Lopez soft tops for $100 at Costco,
I don't know.
and people say
They
they're
got
surfers, and we
they
both
got
know they're not.
reverse rocker and stuff in them. I don't know. It's all surfing, isn't it?
But is
If
it okay?
if that's what it takes for someone to get in the ocean and improve, and they're more confident being on a soft board, good on them. They're going to
Okay.
progress onto a PU eventually. It's just
Yeah.
another avenue to start surfing. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
you're right.
there's a place for them. I don't like guys out there when it's 6 foot and pumping on finless soft tops
Yes.
doing that stuff. Yeah, that's probably more to the point of what you were talking about.
Yeah,
But
kind of. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really enjoy seeing that. They're kind of in my local breaks. They're at the back of the line anyway.
All right.
Not very
Is
high in the
there?
pecking order.
How is the local lineup?
Oh man, we got so many good surfers where I live. A lot of guys that I shape boards to, they're friggin' amazing surfers, and I'm stoked to have them riding my boards and
Yeah.
seeing them in the water every day. It actually, yeah, gives me confidence in what I do, and yeah, it's great. There's a bunch of up and coming kids here. Like we've got Sammy Lowe, it's Mick Lowe's young fella.
No, wow,
He's
okay.
yeah, he lives in the same town as me. He's been ripping. I go surfing with him all the time.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really good. He's aspiring to be a pro surfer, and he just won the under 18s Australian title, which is pretty huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, it gives me a kick watching him. I remember my thought process and my feelings when I was his age doing the same thing. So yeah, if I can give him any confidence or stuff like that, it's great.
And how's dad surfing? Mick.
His dad? Oh, I've
Yeah.
seen him every now and then. Yeah, he gets in the water every now and then. He's
That guy
he's
used to
always good
rip
for a
hard.
chat. Oh yeah, he's always good for a chat. I've known
Okay.
Mick forever, so yeah, nah, he's a good guy.
What kind of quiver would you suggest an average surfer have?
Jeez,
What should be in our
that's
quiver? And how many boards?
oh, well, that's really tough because it depends on the waves you're surfing.
Okay. So
Depends how
let's
you
say
want
San
to surf.
Diego. Beach breaks. Mostly a couple point breaks around.
Yeah, well, you got to have your base all rounder. Something that works
Okay.
in anything. Something
Yep.
if you roll down the beach and it's 5 foot and pumping, or it's 2 foot and average, it's got to go in everything. So that's board one. That's your base board. You base every other board off, I feel.
Okay.
Um, San Diego, you definitely need a groveler.
Yeah.
As far as I think, like a step down performance shortboard's always good.
Okay.
We do a board called the Stoke model, and yeah, they're funny looking things. They're a little bit short, bit kind of roundish, wider nose and stuff, but
Like stubby kind of thing?
yeah, like a stubby thing. I can ride that in anything,
Yeah.
and
Probably.
yeah, and I get guys to they're a bit hesitant getting one, and then they get one and they're like, far out, this works. Like I can ride this at 4 foot sand and
Magic.
point or 1 foot bit, and I'm like, yeah, I told you, it works well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely one of the boards I would recommend for San Diego. And
Okay.
then San Diego probably not so much of a step up, right? You guys aren't surfing. Oh, you got blacks in that, I guess.
Well, no, it gets big, especially like in the
Yeah,
winter. It's
yeah,
proper San Diego. But yeah, I mean,
probably a
I was just
step
thinking
up.
Southern California,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
it's just a step up, 2 inches bigger, round tail kind of thing. And then I feel like I love a twin fin. So yeah, I think a twin fin should be in everyone's quiver. You learn how to. It's good to go back and learn the fundamentals of surfing again.
Yeah. I love twin fins.
Keep
Yeah.
it simple, to get back on your rails, and you're using your rails, not your fins to turn, and yeah,
Okay, but let me
yeah,
ask you this, and this is important to me, I think, or to the younger generation, which I don't know how many listen to me in the younger
yep,
generation. There's a lot of good surfers. I think there's a lot more good surfers today than there were 10, 20, even 30 years ago.
100%,
Like
yep,
like the pool's bigger. There's a lot of it to pull from. And it's a lot
yeah.
harder to become a pro surfer nowadays.
Well, there's more surfers in general, therefore meaning,
Yeah, that's
those
true.
people are having children and they want their children to surf, so it just keeps going and going. Competitively, yeah, there's heaps more kids aspiring to be pro surfers than ever, I would think. Um, yeah.
With that being said, do you think a lot of these kids that are second, even third generation surfers that parents bring them up to be pro surfers, but there's not enough room for all of them, no matter how good they are. There's not that many Kelly Slaters in the world. Um, do you think they should have a plan B just in case?
Oh, 100%. 100% you've got to have a plan B, like at the end of the day, there's only 36 guys on the tour, right? Well, guys.
That's my point. Yeah.
There's going to be 36 girls as well. So realistically, that's going to be 72 people in the world on tour. It's a pretty small you know, and as the sport progresses and everything, geez, it's going to be bloody hard to get there in another 10 years' time. You're going to have to be superhuman. I
Yeah.
feel I feel it's changed a lot since I was there. I think it actually changed while I was doing it, you know, like you could you could rely on strategy and you had to be a decent surfer, but getting 2.7s a heat and relying on strategy, I don't think is going to cut it anymore. The aerials and stuff have really come into play, and yeah, being a good base surfer, I think you're going to have to be more than that to make it these days. You're going to have to be superhuman.
And
Um,
you had okay.
so yeah, it's definitely have plan B, but also I think it's a good thing for, I touched on it earlier, for kids to have a goal, have something to push towards and trying to achieve. And if they don't achieve, maybe they've made some friendships or whatever on the way. Maybe they've got their foot in the door in the industry that they can work another job with a company or on the WSL or something. So I think having the goal of being a pro surfer and aspiring, if you don't make it, it might send you into other avenues as well.
Okay. Do you think pro surfing is as strong as it was back when you were putting your going for it?
Maybe I'm just getting old, but I don't I don't think so. No.
I agree with
I
you.
I think, you know, those years as like Kelly, Mick, Joel, Andy, Taj, those 2000 late 2000s, early 2010s, that I think that was when it was happening. There was personalities on tour, and I don't know, maybe there weren't so much distractions in the world either, you know.
That's true.
To me, watching those 10 events and, the title races at Pipeline, I was watching every heat, glued, nothing else mattered. That was the the main
Yeah.
thing. So today it's, yeah, I don't know. It's a very tough question.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can be a good surfer and never even want to compete?
Yeah, for sure. Competing, like being an amazing surfing, being an amazing surfer and competing are two different things. There's amazing surfers out there that they just don't have the fire to compete. They don't have that killer instinct. I feel like it's super important, you know? There's guys that competed well on their surfing alone. They're amazing surfers. Say like a guy like Dane Reynolds, for instance. Like,
Yeah.
geez, he's unbelievable. But he doesn't have the killer, you know? He doesn't have the
Yeah.
drive. He got to where he was just being an amazing surfer, where if you could put that killer instinct and drive with that natural talent, then you've
Yes.
got a world champ.
Yeah.
So, and vice versa, there's guys that are amazing competitors that, you know, I'm not going to say they're not amazing surfers either, but, you could say they were very, very, what's a word? I don't know. They weren't freaks, it's a tough.
Is there any name? Like, give us an example. If you don't have to, if you don't
Ah,
want.
like
Adriana
a
D'Souza or something like that?
well, yeah, I look at more like the Aussies that I looked up to, and don't get me wrong, I really took on board. I thought it was amazing. They're the guys that end up being really good coaches, like say a Glenn Micro Hall,
Yeah. Yeah. There you
you
go.
know,
Okay.
an Ace Buck and a Kai Otten, those guys,
Ace
like,
is good though. Ace
yeah,
is really
yeah, yeah, yeah. But he never could
good.
really do aerials, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They relied on their strategy and base surfing to get them through heats,
Yeah. Yeah. There
which
you go.
is I felt like I was kind of maybe one, I'm not as good as them, but I had that same thought process, And those guys are the ones that end up really good coaches because they've got to rely on their strategy and heat structures and stuff like that to get them through heats.
Well, Parrish Byrne, thank you so much for coming on the Quivercast. I love chatting with you. Good times.
No
Even though we
worries.
have technical problems, it's always fun.
It's all good, mate. We got there in the end, eh? Good chat.
We did. All right, everybody. This is Mike and Parrish, and we're out of here.